And as always, your views and comments are welcome. Look for us on our social media platforms at Joy News on TV, on Facebook, also on Twitter. Same hashtag. The Pulse is what you need to add to your comments. We will be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. We begin today from Tema, where the police say they've discovered more locations where armed robbers undertake shooting practice before launching attacks on their targets. The revelation is coming a day after the police raided an armed robbery shooting range and gunned down one suspected robber. And it has been a lot of snowballing effects for many. The controversy surrounding whether or not the individuals who were gunned down are actually armed robbers is still a matter which is still coming up for contention this afternoon. And we'll try and give some more details on this. But my colleague, Komla Adom, has just returned from Tema, joins me in the studio with more on this developing story. Komla, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon,
First of all, give us an update. You toured the Ramza site where the police engaged some 5 armed robbers in a shootout. What did you find at the spot where this happened?
All right, thank you very much, Francis. At the spot where we went this afternoon, we realized that there were remnants of broken bottles, as well as, empty plastic bottles with punctured holes in them, which are suspected to be holes that were created by some of the bullets that the suspected robbers were using during their training expedition. We also noticed some empty cartridges we also found, as well as stumps of cigarettes, matchsticks and all of these things around the same area, which raised concerns about the fact that that particular area is a hideout for hardened criminals, as well as some robbers who use that place for their training activities.
Okay. Now, for the police who took you around today to these sites, did they explain to you how they first shot and killed one of the suspected armed robbers and how they rounded them up on Saturday?
Right. Police PRO for that, the Tema Regional Police Command, ASP Juliana Obin, had been speaking to us. She said upon a tip-off, they got to the site, and upon reaching the site, the suspects opened fire against the police in the area. And so the logical thing to do for the police was to return the gun battle, and then in that process, one of them was gunned down with 2 others rounded up, while 2 others, were able to escape. And so they are on a manhunt for those 2 people who escaped. Meanwhile, they are interrogating the 2 others who are currently in their custody to, give them information as to how many of those people are involved in such activities and which other sites, are used for some of these things that they do.
We'll talk about the other sites in just a moment, but let's hear from ASP Juliana Obin speaking to journalists, including Komla Adom, this morning in Tema.
Gathered at Committee 3 Ramsar site, a part of it, and had turned the place into a private shooting range where they go to rehearse and then prepare for their next operation. And so police, after receiving that information, moved in. And when we got to the place, that's the Committee 3 Ramsar site, the intention was not to go and do any other thing apart from going there to make an arrest and then ask the following questions: who gave them the right to use that portion of the Ramsar site as a private shooting range, and then again to find out if the guns or the weapons that they were using were even licensed, and if they were, what did they get their licensing from, and do they even have that right to even own those weapons? That and then many other questions were what we're going to find out from them. But then when we got there, we noticed again that they use empty plastic bottles as their targets when they are rehearsing. And so at the scene, we got there, and quickly when they saw us, they opened fire on us. And per our rules and regulations as policemen and women, if you go to any front and you find out that your life is in immediate danger or your life is under attack, it is within your power. I mean, it is permitted that you defend yourself. And so, yes, when we got there and they opened fire on us, the only option at the time was to also return fire just so we can protect ourselves. And in the process, one got shot, 2 others were arrested, and then as we speak, 2 are on the run.
Right, so that's the Juliana Obin, ASP. She speaks for the Tema Regional Police Commander. Komla told me in the studio. Komla, let's talk about the other aspects of the different locations that the police have been able to identify as shooting ranges in Tema. Right. Do you know where these areas are?
Yeah, unfortunately not. ASP General Bin would not disclose to the media, of course, for security reasons, according to her. But she says the command has met over the issue and have identified a number of those areas where possibly suspects could be using for their training, but they would not disclose until further notice. But then their eyes are on the ground and they've kept their men on the ground with intelligence and everything, monitoring these areas in case of any attack. They will be able to, respond to them.
All right, let's hear from ASP General Obing on that then.
The good news is that after that operation, we have given some kind of security eye to that area. And then we have also sat or met as regional command to see if there are other places where these kind of operations are going on in the region. We have found out a few places, and so we have also kept our eyes on those places. But obviously for security reasons, we'll not be able to tell you, mention those areas to you. But then the assurance is that this thing is not going to happen ever again in the region, because, well, then we have our ears, we have our eyes on the ground. So basically that's what happened.
Right, so that's ASP General Bing. She speaks for the Tema Regional Police Command. But thank you, Komladum, for these details today. This is a story that we'll be following closely in terms of what happens with the investigations, to also uncover whether or not these individuals who've been picked up from the Ramsar site are actually the ones who are perpetrating crime and the armed robbers that the police have been looking for quite some time. We also know that today residents in Tema, some close to the Ramsar site, have been raising some concerns about how the police went about the operations. Earlier today, we heard from some of them who were making the point that the manner of the arrest was done in a way that caused a lot of fear for those who are living close to this shooting range. We'll hear more on that later on.